Hi guys, a couple of days ago I put up a video on the Facebook group showing you how to break down this JPEG image into 4 separate layers so that you can make it really easy to cut in HTV or any sort of vinyl. But this is the same video with sound, so it will take a little bit longer because I'm going to explain each step. But usually in real time this takes me 5 or 6 minutes. And this is not a super complex image because it's got a black outline which makes tracing really easy. It's a little bit more complex with other images, but I can always do a tutorial on those too. So first of all, I got this image from Google Images, and I picked this image because someone was having trouble on the Facebook group, and I thought I'd just make a quick video showing you how to do it. So I saved the JPEG to my desktop, and then I just dragged it into Silhouette. And by the end, we're going to have this. We're going to have 4 separate layers. A black layer, which you cut out first, and then you layer on top of that the blue layer, and then you layer on top of that the tongue, and then on top of that you layer the teeth and his little highlight in his eye. And I'm going to show you exactly how to get from here to here. So first of all, we're going to zoom in. I hit the Z key. So whenever I try and zoom in or out, I just hit the Z key, and it means you can draw a box around the area you want to zoom in on. Our first step is to select the trace area, and you want to make sure you get all of the shark in the trace area. Because this image has got a black outline, it's really easy to trace. All you've got to do is drag the scale down to 4. This makes the edges of the lines as smooth as possible. If you drag this up, you end up with pixelated lines, and if you drag it down, you end up with as smooth a line as possible. My high pass filter, I'm going to leave the same, low pass is off, and then threshold's at 43. And then I just do a visual inspection and make sure that it's got most of the black outlines I need. I can see it's got a little bit of extra around here that I don't really want, but we can clean that up later. So then we just hit trace. Now we're going to zoom out a little bit so that I can have this guy. I'm going to drag the JPEG to the side so that I can just sort of keep an eye on what I'm doing. And then what I'm going to do is, if you hit the V key on the keyboard, that takes you to the select tool. So I use that shortcut a lot. And see all these little red dots? They're all little residuals left over from the trace, and we want to get rid of them. We're going to clean this image up. So rather than click on each one individually, we're going to select the shark, and we're going to go release compound path. And it means that all the lines that are all grouped together are now going to be all separated. So we're going to, instead of clicking on each one individually, if you hold the shift key down, you can click and drag, and it makes it easier to select the pieces. And you can stop as soon as it's highlighted it. So we're going to go over here and select all these little extras. I'm going to go up here and select these. Now you can see I accidentally selected shark then. So I'm just going to, still holding shift, I'm going to select that outline and it deselects it. We don't want these little black dots here. We don't want these little dots over here. This is extra. And I'm just visually checking over here to see whether it's a line that I want or not. There's a little tiny black dot here that I don't want. One here. Couple of others, one up here. So then I just hit the delete key. If you've accidentally deleted something you didn't want to delete, just go up here to the undo button and just undo it. Brings it right back for you. Delete. I can still see a couple of spots I've missed, 1, 2. But otherwise, that looks pretty good. The other things I'm going to delete are this line here, because I can see that this fin is one shape with the outline. There's nothing in the middle. But the trace has left me with an extra piece here, so I'm just going to click on that and click delete. And also his eyeball, there's an extra, I've got an outline of an eye, but I actually don't want this line in here either. I just want the white of the highlight, so I'm going to delete that. And over here, I'm going to delete this whole thing. I could put a little white highlight in. If I was going to do that, I'd probably just do it manually, draw a little circle. But I don't think that's going to cut very well. I think it's just better off leaving it as a black eyeball. I don't think it affects the image too much. So now that we've got the image basically cleaned up, sort of a rough guide, we're going to select the middle line, and this is going to cut out in blue. So I'm just going to undo that. We're going to go up to the fill tool, and you can fill in any color you like. You can have a purple shark. But for ease, I'm going to use the color of the image. So I click the what's this called? Eyedropper tool, and click here. And we've got the color of the shark. And also we've got his lip down here as a separate piece, but it is also blue. So now we've got that. That was pretty easy. We're going to go on to the tongue. and we're going to use the eyedropper tool, and we're going to use the eyedropper. And you can see here that this is supposed to be black. It's not supposed to be pink. So we're going to click the Z tool to zoom in, and we're going to zoom in as close as we can to the little gap. This is the little bit. It's letting all of the pink from his tongue flood into his mouth, and we don't want that. So if you double click on the image, it brings up the points, or you can use the point edit tool. In this case, I'm going to use the knife tool. There are various ways of doing this. Here I'm going to use the knife tool, and I've got it set on straight. I'm just going to put a little slice just here, just cutting that pink. Now that would be okay. You could cut it just as is, but you can see here that this is kind of jaggy, and also his tongue has now like a square and sharp corner, which is a bit weird. So we're going to first click on this piece, and we actually don't need this piece because this is all going to be cut in black, so it's going to be part of the outline. So actually we're going to delete that. And we're just going to go back to his tongue, and we're going to zoom in again as close as we can to the sharp corner, and double click to bring up the point edit. And I'm just going to click this, and I'm going to click smooth and see what happens. Nothing. So point editing is a little bit of playing around with the points and just sort of seeing. Sort of playing with it. So we're just trying to make this a little smoother. So we're going to make curve. There we go. So now his tongue has a nice rounded corner. So I sort of, it's not really an exact science when I point edit. I usually use the smooth and the make curve tool, and then I just drag the curves around a little bit. But so now we have a nice smooth tongue. And we're going to fill in the outline, which is the big piece of black that you're going to cut first. We're going to fill in with black. So now you can see that his mouth is black, his outline is black, his eyeball is black, and we're going to fix these pieces up in a minute. But first of all, we're going to make his teeth white, because at the moment the teeth are connected to his face. So again, zoom in as close as possible. Now this time you could use a knife too, but it's going to require point editing anyway to clean up the lines. So instead, I'm going to double click on the blue. I'm going to click here on a point. Any point that's near the edge is fine, and I'm going to break path. And what happens? Okay, I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to take the black outline, and I'm going to fill it back in with white, because it's going to make point editing this bit easier. So I'm going to double click again on here, and go into the point edit, and I'm going to click on a point, left click on a point, and then right click and break path. Now what happens there is it takes the fill away, because the program doesn't know where to stop the fill. It's like trying to fill up a swimming pool that's got a hole in it. So it can't fill it in, so it just takes the fill away. Now we've got, this is the broken path. This is where the fill is escaping. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to drag away. And you can see now that we've got two open ends. We're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to break path, and we're going to click on the point and drag one of the ends away. So now we've got four open ends, and what we want to do is join them back up the other way. So we're going to drag this piece out here and this one over here, and we're going to snap those together. And as soon as that shape closes back up, the program knows it's a solid shape and it fills it back in. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to snap those together and drag them back in. Now we've ended up with these jaggy lines again, and we don't like that. So we're going to double click on this, and we're going to single click on it first, and we're going to release the compound path again, because now we've got two lines and they've been joined together. So we're going to release the compound path, and we're left now with big blue outline of him, and we're left with the teeth separately. So I'm going to zoom back in, and we're going to get rid of this little sharp point, and we're going to just smooth this out a bit. So I double click on this, I press shift, and I'm going to highlight these 3 points, and I'm going to click smooth just to see what happens, and it did a pretty good job. But this point here is still a bit out of whack, so I'm just going to drag him back in line. And the same thing on his face. I'm going to double click on it, and you can see the point editing. Here I'm going to click smooth, and we'll see what happens, and it did a pretty good job. So basically the smooth and the make curve are really good tools, and now it's a pretty smooth line. I'm going to zoom back out a bit because it's still a little bit of a lump here. So I'm just going to select these 2 points, oops, shift, select the 2 points, and just drag them out a little bit. I'm just being a bit OCD here. I just like it really nice and lined up. It depends too on the size of the image you're going to cut. If you're going to cut this image small, you probably wouldn't notice. If you're going to cut it really large, you probably would notice. So it really depends on your image. So the next thing we want to do, we're almost there. We're going to click on the black outline and we're going to fill it in black. But you can see here that we've still got these red cut lines that are in the blue of his body. So we're going to select all of these lines that we actually want to cut out of the blue so that the black of the layer behind shows through. So we're going to click all these, and this one, and his eyeball. So there are all the bits that we actually want to cut out of the blue layer so that the black layer can be seen. And we're going to Control Shift, just Shift, and click the blue layer. And we're going to go up to Modify, and we're going to click Subtract. And what that'll do is take the top images, which are the red lines, away from the blue image, which leaves us with the black showing through. Now the final step is just to fill in the teeth and his little white eye highlight in with white. And you can see we've now got a really good, easy to layer image. I like to select everything and make the cut lines clear. Just makes it a little bit easier to see. And you could just cut this out, just each layer separately. It would work fine. I like to add registration marks because I find layering a lot easier. So I'm going to show you that too. So we're going to drag him over here. And we're going to put some little squares. You've got to make sure that the squares are above the top of him and above the left of him. And then we're going to copy and paste that. And this one doesn't really matter, it can be anywhere. And then I'm just going to line the top of these up. So this is the Align tool, and click Align Top. And just to make it easier to see, I'm going to fill them in with black. And I don't want them to move away from each other or to somehow change distances, so I'm going to group them together with Control G. Now what I do is I select the black square, and we'll do the blue layer first. So select the blue of his body, and remember he's also got a blue lip too, which is a separate piece, but we want it to cut out of the same piece of vinyl. And then I click Control, and then I tap the right arrow key, and that duplicates the image to the right. And then I Control G and group it together. You can also do it by selecting the boxes, and this time we'll select his tongue. If you don't like using keyboard shortcuts, it's up here in the replicate window, and you just click duplicate below, and then we're going to group together. So Control G, or right click and group. And then his teeth and his white of his eye and the boxes as well. And we're going to copy and paste those ones and drag them down here. You could also duplicate up or duplicate and move, but it's just as easy to copy and paste. And then we're going to group those together again. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to delete his tongue, the whites and the blue, and we're left with the black silhouette, and we're going to then group that with the squares. So now we've got our 4 layers. We've got the blue layer, the black layer will be cut first, then we're going to cut the blue layer on top, we're going to cut the pink layer on top of that, and the white layer on top of that. If you want to check that your registration marks are all good, you can select everything, go to the Align tool, and align left, and align top. And what that'll do is align all the squares, because they're the leftmost part of the image, because we made sure that the left side of that was outside of his fin, and that the top was outside of the top of his fin. So if you align left, it aligns with the leftmost part of the image, and then we align top, and it aligns the topmost part of the image, which again is the squares, and they're all lined up. So now you're ready to print and cut, to cut this out of vinyl or HTV. I hope this helps. Let me know if anything was unclear. I'll be answering questions in the comments if anyone needs any more help. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope this has been helpful. See ya.